Hi, I'm Chris Roselli, and welcome to Western Window. On today's show, we present another episode of Office Hours with Western faculty member Dan Purdy. Office Hours explores ideas and issues of importance to the community in areas where faculty, staff, and students are helping to find solutions. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Western's Office Hours, where we explore important topics and how Western is engaging with them. I'm Dan Purdy, Director of Western's Front Door to Discovery. I also teach entrepreneurship and marketing in the College of Business and Economics. We're coming to you today from Western's TV studios in Wilson Library on the beautiful Bellingham campus of Western Washington University. Universities are big places with lots of things going on that a lot of people don't know about. One of those is community engagement. And that's going to be our topic today, to discuss this whole idea of community engagement. Universities are well known for teaching and research, the creation and dissemination of knowledge. But we're not as well known for working with the community to help the community achieve its goals. So I'm lucky enough to be joined by two wonderful guests today. Heather Davidson, who is a professor in our Communication Studies department, and Marianne Brudwick, who is co-chair of the Bellingham Brain Cancer Walk, which was a subject of one of our community engagement efforts. Community engagement is a big topic. It's a hot topic in academia, although I don't know how much the community thinks about community engagement. But so Heather, maybe start us off with just sort of what is community engagement in the higher education field?
What we're looking for in community engagement is finding a way to connect our students in experiential learning experiences with community organizations so that both the community organization and then also the students benefit from it. And what we see then is practical experience for the students, help for the organizations that they're serving, and then a general bonding with the university and the larger community.
Now you used one of those sort of higher education buzzwords, experiential learning.
Oh, yes.
What does that mean, experiential learning?
Learning through doing.
Yes, okay.
Learning through doing. So instead of just providing textbook curriculum and theory for my students, they're actually going out and putting those things into practice during their time as my student. And often, as we know, learning by doing produces really salient results. So.
Right. So, Marianne, what do you think about community engagement? What's your perspective of it?
I think I've always had a desire to be involved. As I look back in my life, I've been, from the time my kids were born especially, being involved in their lives and being involved in their school. Just kind of putting yourself out there to do what you can, if you can, and for a reason that's personal to you. I would never have dreamed I'd be doing something like this, but as life goes, you sort of weave in and out of different interests in your life, just like with when my children are small and they're elementary school, to doing something like this that is a broader scope. And I think it's, like Heather said, you learn so much by doing. So having these kids, these students come out into the community and experience issues or work for causes that mean something to other community members just gives that bond and makes probably what they're learning in curriculum sort of makes more sense.
So Heather, we're a public university, and Bruce Shepard, our president, has said so many times that we're a publicly purposed university, and that part of our mission is to help to improve the state of Washington, to add value to the state of Washington.
It is priming them to be not only better citizens of Washington, but better global citizens.
Right.
When they are working with a diverse contingent of people in a given organization and then coming together to produce something tangible for our community, there is mutual beneficiality there.
Marianne, as a nonprofit organizer, you're trying to affect real change in the real world. How do you feel about this idea of students practicing in the wild, so to speak, right? But still in a place of learning and developing and that sort of thing? Yeah,
it's sort of a raw place that they're in, because I appreciate that we got a chance to come and talk to the students first to explain what brain cancer, how it affects families, and kind of bring it to the front, because you have to know what the issue is at hand. Why are you doing what you're
Right.
doing? You know, is it going to waste everybody's time, or is there a true purpose to it? So whether it's fun or whether it's, you know, raising money for a cause, or in our case, raising awareness for brain cancer was part of the cause. And so, you know, I think having the students walk through the whole process from the beginning, like knowing nothing about what this is all about, to educating them to here's a cause, here's something worth
Right.
spending your time on. And in the process of that, they're going to learn all these valuable tools to take with them into their jobs, their careers, and
Right.
where they want to go.
That's
And
right.
yeah, it doesn't have to be necessarily in their specific field that they're going to go into, but
Right.
also it is going to make them a better, hopefully more sensitive person to others.
Let's talk about the Brain Cancer Walk a little bit, because community engagement can obviously take many forms, but let's look at this particular example. So Marianne, maybe tell us a little bit about the Brain Cancer Walk, and maybe how you became involved.
Okay. Back when my husband first got diagnosed was about the time that they started Seattle Brain Cancer Walk, and we became aware of it. So after he passed away, I attended that, and I loved the fact that people were coming together for something that affected our lives so deeply. And you know, it didn't take long. I'm just one of those people that thinks, oh, we should have this up in Bellingham, you know. Because we live in our little corner of the world, and there's a need for things up here, just like there is in Seattle, a smaller scale. So in the back of my mind, I'd always been thinking, you know, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a Bellingham Brain Cancer Walk? And come to find out, Hannah started this as her senior project, being a Squalicum High School student. And
Now, Hannah, fill us in on who Hannah is.
Hannah Dashiell had a grandfather who passed away from brain cancer.
Okay.
A year or two before my husband did. And so she had attended Seattle's Brain Cancer Walk from the very first year when they had about 300 people attend. And she had the same thoughts that I had and followed through with them as part of her senior project, and then was tragically killed in an auto accident halfway through that year. And so she already started the legwork. In fact, I had just heard about this girl and was trying to contact her, and she was returning my calls, and we were just about ready to meet. So it felt like, you know, over the next few months when you got involved and we made contact, that it was meant to be. And I was glad to be indirectly involved last year and then more directly involved this year, and just to see her dream continue, and it's also my dream, working with brain cancer people monthly. I'm always talking to people that are affected.
Right.
So it's ongoing, and it's a worthy cause, and that's why I was willing to invest in it.
So Brain Cancer Walk? I mean, what does it look like? What's that like?
The event itself?
Yeah, the event itself.
The event itself is very simple. It's getting people together to commit to a small cost, to go toward a nonprofit organization. This year we supported Chris Elliott Fund, who then uses that money to help brain cancer families.
Okay.
And lead them to the right places to go, the right advice, and just sort of walk them through the journey. So that was our cause this year. But in that process, you go out and raise sponsorships. You of course, have the legwork of organizing the event itself. And so come the day of, all people have to do is show up, walk around the laps of the civic field, or they can just casually talk and mingle.
So they don't even have to walk.
They wouldn't have to walk. It's not a race. It's very simple.
Right.
And we have entertainment. It's just great to be together with
Right.
people that have the same heart and desire to help.
In fact, here's an example of a video that the students made for the Bellingham Brain Cancer Walk.
We went into the hospital and they did an MRI and told us that she had brain cancer. just kind of the worst thing you can hear. As the months wore on a bit, we noticed that there were certain behaviors that were just uncharacteristic of Colleen. It actually wasn't until after she passed away that I said to my son, you know, we really lost half of Mom in August after that surgery, but we were just thankful for what we had, right? So, I mean, and she had her, you know, she was able to engage them, but not the way she would have been able to.
Post-surgery, there were a lot of immediate changes because with the brain cancer, there's such injury to the brain through the tumor, through surgery, through treatments, that there are really large effects. And initially, it was very obvious that there were kind of some emotional and things, and the loss of a filter when one is speaking and such. So it was very traumatic in many ways. He was a design engineer, and he had a tonic-clonic or grand mal seizure. Was being transported to the hospital. Initially thought, after imaging studies, that it was a more benign type of tumor. I began to see the importance of advocating for oneself and one's loved ones.
So I get very sad over the reality of it all, but then I say, but there's another whole half to this story, and that is the enormous support and love and that people showed to us.
So Heather, you obviously believe passionately in community engagement,
Yes.
but I'm also sure that there aren't a lack of opportunities. There are so many worthy organizations out there, both in terms of nonprofit, but also, you know, perhaps government agencies or for-profit companies or whatever. Why did you choose this particular event?
I, of course, being a Bellingham local, was very familiar with the story of Hannah Dashiell.
Right.
My son was a friend of hers as well, and so there was a bit of a personal connection.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, being here at Western and having the resources available to help support something that was so new to our community that I really think has a place here.
What kind of challenges did they face in working with a diverse sort of organizing community members?
Of course, there are different expectations in regard to communication standards and expediency, and you know, communicating primarily through digital means provided a lot of challenges for them to try and dissect messages, or the timing of getting everybody, you know, students
Right.
and committee members on at the same time. This sort of varied sense of urgency from one project to the next, because being, you know, in that planning process so briefly, everything kind of was urgent. And when you have 10 weeks with your students to produce those sorts of things, and it's not their heart project per se,
Right.
you know, that motivation could be a hurdle. In this case, it was not. In this case, it was not. I think in reviewing student feedback about the experience, a lot of that had to do with the panel that you mentioned being a part of at the beginning of the quarter.
Okay.
Right, so
the group that went and talked to the students
Yes.
up front and tried to help them understand why we're doing this.
Absolutely,
Right, right.
absolutely. That helped them frame the project so they understood not only what their tasks were, but why they mattered.
Right.
Why they mattered.
Right.
There's something about seeing a human being who's gone through an experience and making that empathic connection with them that makes you want to produce good work, want to help them.
Absolutely.
And my students very much express that from the experience of hearing from you. And of course, we heard about Hannah and having other survivors and people who had lost loved ones as well.
Well, there's a lot of motivation research out there that points to that idea that purpose and why we do things really, really matters in terms of self-motivation. You know, we can all try to force people to do things, but that doesn't really work very well in a managerial situation. So the challenges that you describe, Heather, don't sound that much different than most of us face in a professional environment every day. In terms of feedback from the students, what were you hearing from the students? Because you were on the other end of it, right?
Right. So they were really thankful for the opportunity to learn a little bit of flexibility because of some of those challenges, and because they were working so closely with one another in their small teams, but towards a larger goal.
Right.
They really wanted to see it succeed, right? But in order for that to happen, there had to be that flexibility, because just as with any project, any planning, things go awry. And when our students are sort of used to having everything laid out, here are the check boxes you need to hit, and then you will get your grade, end of story, and then they're actually put in that real life situation where, again, they have the safety to make mistakes and to freak out and have it all be okay. But then walk through it, they end up with a lot richer learning experience. And so definitely the flexibility piece came up, as did the connection that they made personally to the cause, which was something I wasn't anticipating. Frankly, I thought that it would be good to get them involved in, you know, something so important for the community that affected many people. I didn't expect that such a young population, because this particular class, I didn't have anybody in that class over 24. So everybody being so young, I wasn't sure that I'd be able to get them to get on board with the cause itself. But in the reflections, it actually happened that it was incredibly impactful for them. And many of them expressed their own personal stories with loved ones that they had lost and other experiences that they'd had. And we're really glad to be able to have a place to synthesize those experiences with the professional development. That's something really unanticipated, I think, for them. So.
Marianne, if you were hiring a new graduate, obviously you might be a little biased, but what do you think about this kind of experience?
Oh, I think it's almost mandatory. I mean, I wish that every student had to do this, because it does link them to the real world, and I'm sure employers, you know, are impressed if you have a great grade point. But what does it mean? How are you going to help them in the company? So honestly, if I was looking to hire somebody, I would look at their real life experience along with their, you know, where they come from, where they got their education, and what they're interested in. But you know, people need to care about something, you know, and when you see that they've, you know, like Heather's devoted herself to all the things that she cares deeply about, and it's obvious, and it spills over into her life and her personality, and you know, that's what I want to see from somebody. If I was going to hire somebody, I'd want to see that they're passionate about something, you know.
And hopefully about the things that you're working on.
Yes, hopefully I will spill back in.
And I guess we should note at this time that we are being filmed in the Western studios by Western students who are essentially doing the same thing, that when they go out and interview for jobs in a couple of years, they'll be able to show something like this as evidence of the work that they actually know how to do, as opposed to reading about it in a book and talking about it theoretically. Certainly, that's a huge part of education, is learning the knowledge, but then putting it into practice is really, really valuable. So, Marianne, what are the benefits to the community of working with the university? We've talked a lot about the students, which of course we should. We are a university, that's why we're here. But we want to be good stewards of the community and good members of the community and give back to our communities. So what's the benefits to the community about working with the university?
I think it speaks highly of because you are not separating yourself into this entity on the hill, you know, so to speak. There's been very few times that I've really seen, I guess, over my lifetime, because I've always lived in this community, where Western has infiltrated into the community. And I'm seeing that now that I've been in this role and worked with you guys, and I see more about Western. It reflects. It's kind of like a mirror, you know. You're reflecting back into the community looks at you like, oh, they helped with this, they really do care, or they really want to reach out to people and help in some way.
Right.
And that just breaks down walls, it breaks down barriers.
Yeah,
and so
I agree.
I think I'd love to see this happen, and I'd love to see other avenues that Western can get involved in the community. It's great. Yeah.
Now, Heather, you've been on both sides of the fence. You're teaching at Western now, but you haven't always taught at Western, and you've been a member of the community here for a long time. So how do they benefit from working with Western?
I think that it really does a lot for reinforcing the richness of Bellingham. By connecting the students, by taking them away from the place on the hill and putting them into the community that eventually they will integrate into fully, if they haven't already, as students, young adults. It gives them an opportunity to make connections with things that are important, and gives our community a chance to benefit from the rich resources in all of those student minds and in all of that manpower and energy, potential energy, right? And when they are aware of what is happening in the minds of students up here and how those things can work to reinforce their missions or their goals in our community, then they start to crave that. So when I partner with an organization and it goes well, then all of a sudden they're telling their contacts in the community, oh, well, we figured out this way to partner with, you should call this woman. And, and then there's but it's great though, it's a perpetual conduit for quality learning for the students and for quality outcomes for these organizations who oftentimes are running on very little budget, a lot of volunteer power. And so to get the students in who have specific skill sets or who are being taught at that moment specific skill sets that will be of use is a great benefit for the community, certainly.
So, Marianne, what was the bottom line? Did anybody come out to the Brain Cancer Walk? Did it raise any money? What happened?
Yeah, it was exciting. We had, my goodness, 80 volunteers show up compared to about 8 last year. We had over 460 people participate, and it was just, it was great. It was just a wonderful day. The weather was perfect. We raised over $13,000 to go towards Chris Elliott Fund, who's based out of Redmond, which is fortunate. They're so local. And it really was a success. It was a lot of work, yes, but it was a success in the end, and not just in numbers wise, but just by all we've learned. The students, us, and the people that felt supported that are going through brain cancer right now.
Right.
So, yeah.
So Heather, you chose to do this because of the education piece of your students, because you believe giving back to the community and supporting these things. Does it matter that there are tangible results like this with, nearly 500 people coming and, over $13,000?
The results needn't be so grand to have the experience be of great impact for the students.
Right.
The greatest impact for the students came from learning to use the things that they were learning about, actually putting them into practice, actually having to interact professionally with strangers, having to develop a large project, in a small time scale with limited resources. All of that is wonderful learning for them. So having the numbers jump so dramatically over last year's attendance, and having the funds come in to support families, that's wonderful. It's icing on the cake as far as I'm concerned.
Right. What other options do you see?
In the last year, I've facilitated over 2,100 hours of community engagement with my students.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Every class that I teach has a community engagement component. So every student is involved with something somewhere in our community. So what that means is that over 50 organizations and individuals and businesses in the community in the last academic year have been partnered with my students. And that means that the students have devoted, again, over 2,100 hours to our community in work for free. you know.
Right.
They're giving all of that energy and sharing the resources that we have as a university also into the community that supports us.
Right.
And so it's a very big, very good circle. But not all of those projects have been these massive undertakings, right? Some
Right.
of them are as simple as, again, weeding the garden.
That's awesome. Marianne, what advice would you give to community members, organizations who want to engage at Western?
I would encourage them to seek out someone like yourselves that is willing to perhaps present it to a class and
Right.
and somehow come in and link together. Whether it's in a small capacity or like ours was a larger capacity, a whole class. I mean, that was huge. But my goodness, the things that are learned on both ends are definitely well worth it. I wouldn't hesitate to hold back thinking that, you know, there's either Western has too many requirements. I would highly encourage community organizations to come up to Western and talk to somebody, talk to Heather, talk to anybody, and see what they can do.
So Heather, what do you think about, in terms of guidance you might give to both community organizations and maybe other professors who want to become involved more in community engagement?
As far as other teachers go, I would encourage them to figure out a way to integrate this sort of work into their curriculum, because again, it doesn't have to be a grand scale.
Maybe start small.
Start small.
Right.
Start small is just fine.
Right.
Any step is a step, right?
Right.
And you know, there are lots of good resources and lots of faculty members. We have 200 instructors engaging in this sort of experiential community experience for our students. And so find them, get connected with them, figure out how to grow those networks, grow the experience, make it richer.
And start ahead of time.
Yes, start
Don't-
early.
don't wait
Start
until-
early.
And be patient.
Be patient.
They are students.
Yes.
Right, they're learning. I think that's one of the things that I've learned in working with students for so many years is tremendous amount of energy, wonderful intellect, they're very caring, but they're still developing young professionals, regardless of the field they're in, and having realistic expectations of what they can do, and also realizing that for none of them is this a full-time gig, right? They have many classes, they have many things going on, right? So really important. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate the time that you've given us and the wisdom that you shared with us in this community engagement story. Really
Very
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you for joining us as well. It's such a privilege to talk about important topics like community engagement with wonderfully talented people. As always, I hope that it's been educational for you. And if you're interested in community engagement, let us know. You can find us through the Front Door to Discovery at Western Washington University, or look me up online, Dan Purdy. So until next time, thanks very much, and we'll see you.